Hello, welcome to Vivacity. Today we are going to talk about working from home with children. Now, this is something that I'm seeing a lot as we've all been sent home. We are all in this same situation. The trouble is, if you were used to working in an office and now you suddenly find yourself at home, you aren't just working at home, you're also adjusting to having your entire family group at home with you. If you're used to working at home, it's still an adjustment because you may not be used to having everybody else there with you. So, how do you manage? Well, from my perspective, and I've done this for many, many years, the entire time my kids were growing up, I was also working. And sometimes I would integrate with them, I would pull them into what I was doing. Other times I needed them to be quiet so I could get things done. And there are many ways you can do this. The challenge is you pretty much need to know, what age group are you working with, because that's going to determine what your tactics are, and the kind of work you're doing, because some things you can let them into, let them be a part of. Some you just kind of need to get them to be quiet and to leave you alone for a little while. Respect what you are doing so you can get your job done. So how do you handle it? Well, let's start with young children, babies and young children. In some ways, they're the hardest. I'm going to say, you can pull them into the room if it's a baby. You can set them on your lap. You can put them in a playpen or something beside you. Toddlers get a little harder. They want to touch everything. They want to know what you're doing. They want to talk to you. They want to pull you aside. And what if you have a meeting at that very moment? Well, I think the first thing you need to remember is that we're all in this together, and there is no right or wrong, but in all seriousness, you don't need to worry about it that much. You've probably seen that video of the man, he's a subject matter expert, and he is presenting on the news, and his toddler and baby come wandering into the room, and then his wife comes crawling in afterwards to pull them back out. We get a huge kick out of watching that, but that's the situation we're all in. And the cool thing is, since we're all in it together, it doesn't need to be a big deal. And I think we all just need to lower our expectations and realize that we aren't talking about our siloed work and then our home as something separate. Right now, they're one and the same thing. The highest priority is actually us staying safe and healthy. The lower priority is creating a distinct separation between home and work. The truth is, your children can be visible in most meetings. There are moments when they're not, but if I had been that subject matter expert, I probably would have picked up my child and put her on my lap rather than trying to pretend like nothing was happening. Everybody loves a child. Everybody loves a baby. And if they're cute, it's actually going to liven up the meeting. So I would say, first of all, relax a little bit about it. But another thing you can do, especially with toddlers, is, first of all, they need to learn how to behave when you're working. So let them into the room, create play stations for them. So you could have, on one spot of the floor, you could have a coloring book and some crayons, some paper and pencils. And another spot, you could have Legos. Another spot, you could have their train set, whatever their favorite toys are. But try to find toys that are relatively quiet so they can move around, explore their different play stations, have some fun being in the room with you, and still not necessarily interrupt you. The other thing you need to do is get really comfortable with setting boundaries. Children can learn to behave in any way you need them to. And yes, there are some children who are strong-willed. They will resist anything. But if you're firm and if you're consistent, they will learn. So tell them, in a minute you can come over and be with me, but right now, go play and be quiet. And you might need to set a timer for them. You might need to take some other tack as a way of setting a time limit for them to be quiet so they can actually check on their own progress. And that's a good thing for them to learn. They need to learn boundaries, they need to learn self-control, and they need to learn a work ethic from you. So don't be afraid to enforce that. Now, older children, as children get older, they will have some of their own projects. They will maybe be more demanding in some ways, but they become so much more self-sufficient, and they've already begun to learn self-control. They've already, especially if they've been in school, they understand the concept of having to do a certain task, at a certain time. So leverage that. If you've been more lenient at home, you need to bring those rules, those expectations into your office or wherever it is you're working. Again, set up stations for them. Set up alternative activities where they aren't constantly interrupting you. If you've got a stretch of work where you need to pay attention, you need to really focus, don't be afraid to let them know. And again, I think that's part of the key. Let them know, I need to be really busy for 20 minutes. Can you entertain yourself? And let them be in the room with you if they're quiet. You can also tell them, if you need to make noise, you need to leave the room and shut the door, or you need to go outside, or what? No, they can't go outside by themselves more than likely, but you get the idea. Give them parameters. I've got the TV on in the other room. If you want to watch TV, you can go there, but if you come in this room, you need to be quiet. If you are firm and if you are consistent, that really does work. So try that with your toddlers and school-age children. As kids get older, they truly do understand what you're doing. They many times are curious about what you're doing, and it's more a matter of letting them see, letting them ask questions, letting them kind of watch you. They will soak it all up, and you will see it in their own schoolwork, and when they go to college and when they get a job. All of that training, all of that watching you is going to come out and help them operate on a higher level much faster. I know that's true for both my kids. I feel like they are so far beyond what I was at their age. But some of it is because I let them be in the room and participate in the work that I was doing. I also respected their need to play, and I gave them the space to do that and to be creative and to walk in and out of the room as they needed to. So don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to get firmer, set boundaries, and give them some choices. For instance, if you want to be loud, you can go here. If you want to do this, you can go there. If you want to stay in here, this is what you can do. Then just enforce it. Now, you are going to have irregularities. It is not going to look like a normal work day, and that's okay. I think the point is that we accept that things are different and be okay with that. Now, you may feel some guilt. I was on a thread of newly work-at-home people, newly remote people from COVID-19, and many of them were saying, even with their pets, they felt guilty because usually when they're home, they are engaging with their family as just a human. Now, all of a sudden, they are home, but they have to ignore their pets, their children, whoever else is in the house. And that's something we need to get over. The truth of the matter is, work still needs to happen. You do work Monday through Friday. Everybody knows that. Everybody in your home, even the pets. But they will hope that you can engage with them. And just go ahead and take your coffee break with them, take your lunch break with them, and get them comfortable with the fact that sometimes when you're home, you're busy and you can't pay close attention to them. When I was first had my spinal cord injury and I was working flat on the bed, I mean, I really wasn't even sitting up at all. So I had my laptop on a tray beside me, and of course it was angled pretty far over so I could see it. Well, my cat, of course, wanted to be right between me and the computer because that's where I was looking. And I repeatedly had to pick up my cat and move him over to the other side. After a while of doing that, he knew he wasn't even allowed. He figured he wasn't allowed on my right side. If he wanted to be with me, he immediately came to my left side. There was a little bit of guilt. You do feel bad that you're setting boundaries, that you're setting parameters, that you're setting limits on the animals and the people you love. But it is part of the game. It is necessary. So don't be afraid to do it. And in the long run, it's good for everybody. It doesn't hurt anything. So don't be afraid to do it. Don't be afraid to experiment with different things. The other thing you may want to do is try out different work locations. Maybe instead of the children moving back and forth, you do. If there's a point of time in which you're doing something a little bit mindless, there's no video calls going on, move into a space where they're happier and you follow them. Then when you get up and move into the quiet room, they know they can't follow you. Something like that. So there are lots of ways you can work around that. Now, if you've got important equipment and you've got animals trying to chew cords, you've got children trying to touch your keyboard, cats trying to sit on your keyboard, you may need to figure something else out. Those are difficulties that there's no prescription for that. You have to figure out what works. Duct tape covering cords might be a good solution. Taping them to the leg of your table. Putting up a playpen around you, perhaps, could keep a toddler away. Be experimental. Think outside the box, because in the long run, only you know your situation. But if you need help, if you need to consult on what might work, feel free to leave a comment here. Feel free to reach out to other people who, again, we're all in the same situation. And it helps sometimes to see what other people are doing, to know what's working for them. I've shared some of what has worked for me. I know it works. I raised 2 children. They both have terrific work ethics, and we're all good friends. So give it a try. Don't be afraid of it. And for goodness sakes, do not feel guilty. This is just what's going on right now. And we can do this. I know you can. So thank you for being here. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye-bye.